Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. So in this video today I'm going to be debunking XRP private ledger versus public ledger claims. Now this was the video that most of you wanted me to do. It was close between Clearing Bank 2.0 and XRP and the price difference of XRP between public and private ledgers. So this is the video I'm doing. So recently there has been a lot of confusion lately, or dare I say it, misinformation being spread in relation to private and public XRP ledgers. Some claims are the price of XRP between the ledgers are different, the supply of XRP on the private ledger may be different than the public ledger, and that Ripple could basically be screwing us over and have a new token on the private ledger that isn't XRP, so on. So there's various claims circulating at the moment, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to try and clarify the confusion in this video. So let's get started. Now, before we get started with the way I like to do my videos, I like to start from the beginning, teaching you, going through the basics and building my way out. So let's start from the very beginning. What is XRP? And it's important that you understand this, as it would make sense why later as to why I'm asking you what is XRP. Because if you already understand what XRP is, then a lot of the confusion surrounding private and public ledgers would not be there, simply because you understand what XRP is. So XRP is basically a decentralized, neutral bridge liquidity token designed to be the interoperable medium to solve the issue of liquidity and cross-border payments between two parties with two different currencies that do not have to trust each other. So if you have two different parties, they both have their own currencies and they don't want to have to trust each other. Now they need an interoperable medium for their two currencies. And what could they use? XRP, because it's decentralized, it's a neutral bridge, and also it provides liquidity, and that's what it's designed for, to be an interoperable medium. And it's important that you understand this, as this is one of the major value propositions of XRP. And like I said, if you understand this, then some of the misinformation that's going around regarding public and private ledgers and XRP, you would already understand and see the misinformation and understand why it's misinformation and why certain things are not correct, simply because you understand what XRP is. So what is the XRP ledger? Now, the XRP ledger is the decentralized, permissionless, public, immutable ledger that XRP is built to be the native token for. The XRP ledger is a public ledger. This means all transactions that occur on the ledger is public for the world to see, follow, monitor, track, trace, you name it. All account balances are public under wallet addresses on the XRP ledger. So why is this a problem? When I say a problem, I mean, why is it a problem for banks and financial institutions that the XRP ledger is public? The reason why it's a problem for banks and financial institutions is because they want a private ledger for their accounts and balances, which makes perfect sense. If you look at how they run today, are their databases public or private? Private. And that's exactly how they would want it to be if they are using DLT systems. They want a ledger they have more control over, that is private, centralized, and isn't open to the world to view. They will not use a public ledger for this reason, for their database ledger. So Ripple clearly understands what banks want. And understanding this, what they've done is that they provided them, banks, with a solution. And this solution is introducing the private XRP ledger, which gives the banks what they want. Now I'm going to go through this document, and it's called Ripple Pilots a Private Ledger for Central Banks Launching CBDCs. So this document talks more about the Ripple private ledger. So what does it say? Ripple is piloting a private version of the public open source XRP ledger that provides central banks a secure, controlled, and flexible solution for the issuance and management of digital currencies, which is exactly what banks want. With over 80% of central banks actively exploring some form of sovereign-backed currency, cryptocurrency, each new CBDC will have unique goals driven by the specific market challenges and opportunities of its country, unavoidably leading to different technologies and implementations, leaving the world with an array of CBDC solutions. So every country, every market is going to have a different type of CBDC tailored to that country, with how that country wants to set up their CBDC and how they want to implement it, and in terms of what technology they're going to be using. What is this going to cause? It's going to cause the world to have different CBDC solutions out there. Now, what's the CBDC challenge? Distributed ledger technology will be the basis for most CBDCs. While central banks can tap into existing blockchains to get CBDCs up and running quickly, most ledgers are not built for payments. This is why, guys, when you see banks using Ethereum for their CBDC solution, you don't have to worry, because you know that ledger is not built for payments. It's not designed for payments like that at scale. So there's only a few DLT systems out there that's literally designed for this at scale. Now, don't get me wrong, there are also DLT systems out there that are private, that are centralized, and they are also designed and built for banks and tailored for banks as well. But when it comes to the public blockchains, there's not many DLT systems out there that are built for payments at scale. But XRP is one of them, and Ethereum isn't. So now most ledgers are not built for payments and cannot handle the volume of transactions that a successful retail CBDC will require. Most blockchains are public ledgers, visible to all and updated by a broad network of validators. A central bank requires more transaction privacy and control over its currency than a public ledger can offer, so will most likely opt to create a CBDC on a private ledger that can also operate at the required scale. A central bank is not interested in using a public ledger for their CBDC DLT system. They want privacy. They want something that they have control over, that's more centralized, and that's also scalable when it comes to payments. And Ripple is fully aware of this. So, additionally, interoperability, the ability for a private ledger to connect with today's existing global financial infrastructure, as well as other CBDCs and other digital currencies, will be critical. So Ripple is well aware that there's going to be a need for interoperability between DLT systems and legacy systems, between CBDCs that are built on one DLT platform and a CBDC that's built on another. And they are well aware that interoperability is going to be key. Now, the Bank for International Settlement identified interoperability for cross-border payments as a major priority for CBDCs, and this is also a priority for CBDCs, that they need to be interoperable. Now, the CBDC private ledger. The CBDC private ledger is based on the same blockchain technology that powers the XRP ledger. So Ripple's private ledger CBDC that banks can use to build their own CBDCs is literally based on the same technology as the XRP ledger, the same software as the XRP ledger, but it's private, it's centralized, it gives banks more control. However, it's the same technology, the same software that the XRP ledger works on. It's a private version for banks, giving them more control where they can adapt it to how they want it. So which means the CBDC private ledger is built for payments, because the CBDC private ledger is going to work and function just as the main XRP ledger does, which is also built for payments. This also means the CBDC private ledger is designed for issuing currencies, with over 5,400 currencies issued on the XRP ledger over the past 8 years, including its native digital asset XRP, which can be leveraged as a neutral bridge asset for frictionless value movement between CBDCs and other currencies. Now, the XRP private ledger can also be used to issue currencies just like the XRP ledger can as well. Moving money on the CBDC private ledger will be cost-effective, reliable, and close to instantaneous. Transactions can also happen at volumes required by central banks. The CBDC private ledger will handle tens of thousands of transactions per second initially, with the potential to scale to hundreds of thousands transactions (TPS) transactions per second over time. Transactions on the CBDC private ledger are verified by the same consensus protocol used by the XRP ledger. So as you can see, the CBDC private ledger is pretty much designed for banks. It's what they're looking for and it's what they need, and it's a solution to a problem that banks will have with using public ledgers like the XRP ledger. They won't use that, but they would not mind using a private ledger that's scalable for them, that they have full control over, that's designed for making payments, where they can issue assets on, where they can issue currencies on, and so on. And that's what Ripple is actually building for these central banks. So to continue, time to define the future of money. We are currently engaged with central banks around the world to better understand their goals and assess how the CBDC private ledger can help achieve them. We believe this solution will overcome the major challenges around creating and managing a sovereign digital currency while amplifying the value and benefits for central banks, their partners, and above all, the millions of people who will use it. We are also working on a fresh approach where central banks will be able to join a network of CBDC ledgers that enables full settlement interoperability while allowing each member to retain their monetary and technological independence. We believe this will be a game changer for central banks. So what do you think that solution is going to be? Where Ripple is saying that they're working to help banks also connect to other CBDC ledgers and enable full settlement interoperability. So in other words, CBDCs are going to be interoperable with each other between banks, and it would also enable the banks to retain their monetary and technological independence. What is going to be that solution? And they believe whatever this solution is going to be, it will be a game changer for central banks. You already know the solution. The solution is going to be XRP, and that's the role and function of XRP. Now, to summarize, hopefully by now you appreciate what XRP does and you understand why banks will only want to use a private ledger over a public ledger, and how Ripple is solving the concerns banks have with public ledgers by developing for them the ability to use private ledgers that they have full control over and that's scalable for them in terms of their payment needs. Ripple wants banks to work with them, and they want to be able to solve the CBDC interoperability issues banks will have with the XRP token. So it only makes sense for Ripple to have a private ledger for banks. Otherwise, what would happen? The banks will just find it elsewhere. So now let's address the misinformation. I gave you the background knowledge, the foundational knowledge that you're going to need to understand this when I address the misinformation. So what do we have here? What we have here is a diagram, a hand-drawn diagram by me. Now, sometimes I have to do these hand-drawn diagrams just to make it easy for my viewers to understand what I'm saying if they can see an illustration. Now, this is hypothetical, of course. Don't take it literally, but it's just a way for you to understand, hopefully, public and private ledgers better. So at the bottom we have the public XRPL main chain, and on the public XRPL main chain we have XRP. Now these boxes on top are supposed to be private ledgers, or you can call them side chains. In this example, I chose the side chains to be created by central banks. So you have the Bank of Brazil, the European Bank of Europe, Bank of England, the Federal Reserve, Bank of China, and Bank of Russia. And each of these banks have their own CBDCs. Okay? And here we have the Federator. And this is why you call these chains federated side chains, because you have the Federator, and the job of the Federator is to connect the side chain to the XRP ledger, to connect the private ledger, which is the side chain, to the main public chain, which is the XRP ledger. And that's what the Federator does. And altogether, this whole entity is known as federated sidechains. And when I say sidechains, I'm referring to a private ledger here. So let's just go through these points. So the Federator is basically the software that enables you to run a sidechain on the XRP ledger. So the Federator software enables you to run a side chain on the XRP ledger. The federator connects to the XRPL mainnet on one side. On one side, it connects to the XRP ledger mainnet, and on the other side, it connects to one or more side chains on the other side. So here you have a federator connecting to the mainnet, and on the other side, it's a private side chain for the Bank of Brazil and their CBDC in this illustration, and so on. Here's the federators. They're connecting to the mainnet, and they're also connecting to their private sidechain. So the federator allows XRP and issued tokens to move from one chain to another, and I've kind of illustrated it here in the diagram where XRP can move from the main chain to the private chain, sidechain, and from the private chain back to the main chain. And that's what and it does that via the federator. It's like a gatekeeper, and it allows XRP tokens or issued assets to move from one chain to the other. So each sidechain would function as its own blockchain. So the sidechain would function as its own blockchain, exactly how in the XRP, in the Ripple document I just read, how they were talking about private ledgers, and it gives banks more control. They want them to, it enables banks to scale payments. This is what these private side chains are. And each of them would function as its own blockchain with their own ledgers and transactions. So the federated side chains could use XRP as their primary asset, or they could use their own native asset. And I'll talk more on that in a minute. So each side chain is run by its own set of validators. So every single sidechain has its own validator. Like you have in the public XRPL main chain, they have public validators. With the private chains, they also have their own set of validators because they did not rely on the validators on the main chain for transactions on the sidechain. So transactions on the sidechain happens as a result of their own validators within that sidechain. So usually the federators should also be the trusted validator of the sidechain. So whoever is running the federator software, which is connecting the sidechain to the main chain, that entity is also the validator as well of the sidechain. So one of the validators of the sidechains would also be, or should also be, the federator as well. Hope that makes sense. Now, so bearing in mind this diagram, I'm going to answer some questions. Now I actually got these questions from Crypto Rick's YouTube channel, and he was actually asking them to David Schwartz. I think that's how you say his name, David Schwartz. Yeah, he was asking David these questions, and I'm going to see if I can answer them. And I'm not David Schwartz by any means, but I'm going to give it a shot. So question number 1, is the native token on the private ledger exclusively XRP? So these are the private ledgers. He's asking the native token on these private ledgers, is it exclusively XRP? And the answer is no. These sidechains could have any token they want to be their native token, because the XRP ledger, the private ledger, allows for tokens to be created. It allows for CBDCs to be created. Within the Bank of Europe's sidechain, private blockchain, the main native token on that private ledger could literally be their CBDC, for example. So XRP on these private ledgers is not the exclusive token for these ledgers. They could all have their own native exclusive token. It doesn't matter. So is the private XRP, this is question number 2, is the private XRP native supply the same as the public supply? So we know the public supply of XRP, let's say all of it was in the market, is 100 billion. So the question is the supply on the private chain the same as the public? Now, if they are using XRP, then the supply would be taken from the public chain, because XRP can be moved via the federator from the XRPL main chain to a sidechain. So asking if the supply is the same, well, they are using the supply of the token XRP, which is 100 billion. So they are using the main chain supply of XRP. So the supply would be the same if they are using XRP. If they are taking XRP over into the private networks of their private ledgers, then the supply would be the same. The XRP that they are using, which they've taken from which they have sourced from the main chain, is not going to be a new XRP or a different kind or type of XRP or a different XRP that has a different supply. It's going to be XRP. So yes, the supply would be the same if they are using XRP in the private ledger. It's not going to be, oh, in a private ledger, XRP is a much higher supply or lower supply than XRP on the main chain when they are using XRP taken from the main chain. Does that make any sense? So yes, the supply of XRP used in the private ledger is going to be from the total supply of XRP that's on the main chain. It's not a separate supply, it's not a separate token. It will be the same XRP because XRP can move across the federator into the side chain. So question number 3, this question was actually asked by someone in my Discord. They asked me, is it possible we do not see price action because the XRP is being utilized on the private ledger for transactions? So the questioner is asking me basically, on the public chain, is it possible that we see no price action because these private networks are utilizing XRP? So as a result of them utilizing XRP for transactions, okay, we do not benefit from any price appreciation. Now, the reason why I say that's not possible is because where are they going to source their XRP from? If the Bank of Europe, the Bank of England, the Federal Reserve in America, the Bank of China, the Bank of Russia, they are all going to be using XRP, okay, even amongst each other within the private XRP ledger, within the private network, because remember, in the private XRP layer, they can also have private connections to each other if they wish. They can go via the public chain, or they can also have private connections with each other. Obviously, they're going to have to trust the connection between each other because it's not on the public main chain, which is trustless. So they're going to have to create a trusted connection that they have with each other, and they could use XRP sent between each other. Now, the reason why I don't see this affecting price action is because when these banks use XRP, or if they use XRP in the private chain, okay, then it has to be sourced from where? How does it get into the private network? As a result of being purchased or bought up from the main chain, from the open market and on a main XRP ledger, and then it can then be taken up by the federator into the private layer. So it's still sourced from the main chain, and as a result of being sourced, what does it do to the price of XRP? It shoots up the price of XRP if central banks around the world are literally buying XRP from the main chain, taking it up into the private layer where they are using it. It's still a major demand for XRP. And let's put it this way. Imagine they do that, okay, and they use XRP on a private layer. Then doesn't that mean that XRP, for one, is taken out of the market on the main chain, and two, that selling pressure, we won't really be affected by it on the main chain because it's all being done privately. So the way I see it is, I mean, this is from how I understand it. The way I see it is, if that's what's going to happen, if that's the case where they are using XRP privately between each other, but they have to source it from the public main chain, then they're going to have to buy it from the public main chain to source it. But then if they're using it privately, when they trade XRP or they sell XRP between each other, we on the main chain are not suffering from that selling pressure. Unless, of course, it's done via the main chain where XRP is traded across. But if it's not, then we would not see those trades. So we would not suffer from the selling pressure, but at the same time, we would benefit from the demand of them having to accumulate XRP, buy XRP, to take it up into the private layers to use it. So I don't think it's possible that we do not see price action because XRP is being utilized on the private ledger for transactions. And you have to remember as well, if XRP is going to be used for on-demand liquidity between these financial institutions as a liquidity token, then it has to be high priced. And it's not going to be high priced with them and low priced with us. That's not how it's going to work, and I'm going to cover that in a minute. So whatever the price is that they're trading XRP at, we would benefit from that price as well. Can XRP be worth on the private ledger more than the public ledger? That's the next question, question number 4. Now, some people say that on the private ledger, you're going to see XRP at a high price. And I've seen prices like 300 and something thousand per coin, 1.6 million. I mean, some people are going really out there with the prices. Okay. But then what they then say is that on the main chain, it's going to be still at a low price. And that does not make any sense. And the reason why that makes no sense is because, for one, let's just give you an example. Let me just give an example here, yeah? Imagine on the main chain, the price of XRP, I'm going to use small numbers, is £1. So on the main chain, the price of XRP is £1. And then the Bank of America, I'm going to use America now for this example, is trying to say in their private ledger, they're pricing XRP at £1,000. Okay? On the main chain is £1. The Federal Reserve in the USA is saying it's £1,000 within their private ledger. Which of these banks do you think is going to accept XRP, the Bank of Russia, the Bank of China, the Bank of England, the Bank of Europe, the Bank of Brazil, from America at the price of £1,000 per token, when they all know they can source XRP for £1 on the main chain? What do you think? Do you think the Bank of England is going to say, okay, yeah, I'm going to trade with the Federal Reserve of USA at accepting XRP from them at £1,000 per coin, when that Bank of England knows that they can source XRP for £1? I mean, they will see through what the Federal Reserve is doing straight away. No one is going to let the Federal Reserve mug them off like that. And that's exactly what that would be. That would be mugging the other countries off. If you try to tell them, I want to have XRP priced at £1,000 and let's do business with it at £1,000, you accept XRP from me at £1,000 and give me £1,000 worth of your CBDCs. And the Bank of England is going to be like, okay, here, America, let me give you £1,000 worth of CBDCs and you give me one XRP. Whilst the Bank of England knows that the price of XRP on the main network is just £1 and they can source it themselves because they are a federated sidechain and they have a federator where they can get XRP for £1. So why would they accept it from America for £1,000 within the private layers? It's not going to happen. Now, let's just say all of them, they colluded and they all said together, okay, we would accept XRP for £1,000 amongst each other. Meanwhile, on the main chain, it's only £1. Okay, but then there was no. Okay, let me not say all of them. I need to leave one country out for this. So let's just say all 4 of them: the Bank of Brazil, Bank of Europe, Bank of England, the Federal Reserve, and Bank of China said we're going to accept XRP amongst each other for the price of £1,000. Meanwhile, we know the price is £1 on the main chain. What does this do? This enables arbitrage opportunity. Arbitrage opportunity for the federators. So a country like Russia could see what they're doing. They could be sourcing XRP from the main chain for £1 and literally selling it off to the Bank of China, the Federal Reserve, Bank of England, Bank of Europe, to the rest of them for £1,000 per token because they want to accept it for £1,000 while the Bank of China is getting it for £1. What happens eventually? If you keep doing that, arbitraging like that, not only would the Bank of Russia make a nice lot of money off of this, but eventually it causes equilibrium because the demand would eventually lead to the price of XRP increasing on the main chain until the main chain equals the price of XRP on the private chain. An arbitrage opportunity would cause that equilibrium. So this notion that on the private layers it's going to be more and on the public layers it's going to be less is nonsensical. It makes no sense. No matter how you look at it, it makes no sense. If one country is trying to say I want everyone to accept XRP from me for £1,000, it's not going to happen when everyone else can source it for £1. And even if they all collude, it still makes no sense. They know that they're all accepting an asset at a much inflated price when they can source it via their federators for a much lower price. And a country that does do that can arbitrage and make a lot of money as a result of sourcing XRP from the main chain and selling it within the private networks, especially if they're all interconnected. So it makes no sense to say that XRP would be worth more on the private ledger than the public ledger. especially when they all have connections to the main chain via the federator. It makes no sense at all. And this is why you have developers in the space saying, if this happens, there's a little price difference. Remember, they just talk about a price difference. Some people say the difference is going to be magnificent, like it's going to be thousands, hundreds of thousands in the private ledger, but in the main chain it's going to be a few quid. It's ridiculous. If that's the case, there's going to be huge arbitrage opportunity, and the demand for XRP for pennies to sell it for much more would be there by these federators, and that would cause equilibrium in the price, and that would lead to the public chain and the private chain having the same value. When you hear people say, show us the private ledger and what asset it is using, they don't understand how the private ledger works. The private ledger can be built, potentially speaking, by there's not one single private ledger. There can be hundreds and thousands of private ledgers. In this example, I've given you private ledgers built by central banks. But what if a business wants to build a private ledger? They can. What if a developer wants to build a private ledger for an app that he's testing out? Then he can as well. I mean, anyone can build a private ledger that wants to benefit from having that private network connected to the XRP main chain, not just central banks. So when someone says, show me the private ledger, they're talking as if there's this one layer private ledger. It doesn't work like that. Each country can have their own private ledger. Each bank could have their own private ledger. Businesses could have their own private ledgers. Developers could have their own private ledgers. So which private ledger is anyone supposed to show you exactly? And especially when you say, and what asset is being used on the private ledger, anyone that has a private ledger can create any asset they want. It's just like the XRPL. You can create tokens, you can create assets. They can do that on the private ledgers as well. The Bank of Europe could have its own native token on the private ledger. It doesn't have to use XRP. The Bank of England could have its own native token. All these banks could have their own native tokens. But then the question is, why would they want to use XRP? Imagine they all have their own native tokens within their countries on the private ledger. The reason why they would want to use XRP is because there's going to be an issue of what? Let's just say the native tokens are their CBDCs. There's going to be an issue of interoperability, and that's where XRP comes in. How did I describe XRP to you? It's a decentralized neutral bridge asset liquidity token. The point here is it's neutral, and it can be used as a medium for interoperability between two different CBDCs. This is why even if the Bank of Europe had their own token, their own native token on the private ledger, and the bank and the Federal Reserve had its own native token on its private ledger, if the two were to interoperate, the Bank of Europe doesn't want America's native token and vice versa. So what are they going to do? They would use XRP as the medium of exchange. So XRP is going to be the neutral bridge asset between all these banks on the private network if they are interacting with each other privately. Or they could interact with each other via the XRPL main chain and use XRP. And so when people say, show us the asset that is being used, any asset could be used on the private chain. There is not one specific private chain. There's many private chains. I'm not saying at the moment there's many private chains, but hypothetically speaking, in the future, when all this is built out, there's going to be many private chains, and that's how it's supposed to work. Now, at the moment, there may just be one private chain, which is the testnet or the devnet. And I'm not saying all these banks have a private chain on XRP, but this is potentially, hypothetically speaking, a future scenario taking place. So you can't say, show us the private ledger. It's private for a reason. It can't be shown. And the assets on it, okay, could be any asset. It doesn't mean anything. Another thing that is being stated is that the public and private ledgers will merge. Why does that make no sense? What does it mean to merge? When you say something merges, it means they become one, they connect together. Not connect together, but they merge into each other. So they become like one entity. Two separate things, when they merge, they become one entity. Now, why would this not happen? Because the whole idea is banks don't want to operate on a public ledger. They want privacy. they want to operate on a private ledger, so they won't merge with the public ledger. But what they would have is a federated sidechain, a federator that connects them to the main chain. They still have their private ledger and they know where the public ledger is, and the federator allows them to move assets if they wish to and from the main chain. They're not going to come one with the main chain because it defeats the purpose of being private, which is what they want. They want their privacy and they want their control and they want their centralization and they want their own validators. So they're never going to merge. That makes no sense. But what they would do is have a bridge, the federator, which connects the side chain and the main chain together, and that's what they would have. So I hope this makes sense. I hope it's clarified some of the misinformation that's being spread out there, and I hope this diagram has helped you understand it better. Don't forget to like, subscribe and hit the bell notification icon so as to not miss my next video.